Right, Professor Kevin Corrin of Cybersecurity at Ulster University is on with me now. Good morning to you, Professor. Thanks again for taking the call.
Good morning, Greg.
A lot of conversation has focused on social media, the internet generally, I suppose, and young people's use of it. Your opinion on a Daily Mail campaign to ban the use of mobile phones? They want the government to ban under 16s in the Republic from having access to mobile phones. I don't think they mention tablets and other devices, just mobile phones. What would your opinion be on that as an expert in cybersecurity? If you want to really keep them safe, keep them away.
Yeah, I guess if we look back to the source bit, really, why are they trying to ban smartphones for young people? So again, the worry really comes down to one thing. One main problem that they see is pornography. And of course, the other negatives that we're familiar with when it comes to being online is bullying and sexting and, I guess, getting access to wrong information. But so if we look at those items that we worried about and we worry about as parents, of course, none of us want our children to see, inappropriate images or content and to be bullied or whatever else. But unfortunately, it's not a real pragmatic approach in modern life, because technology is just a core of our beings in modern life. When we navigate from A to B, when we communicate with our friends, with our social networks, we see we have so many uses for technology which are good and positive. So therefore, to remove the access to something which is good, because there are some things which are, yes, horrendous, but therefore that we just ban them totally from something, and therefore only, of course, then you're left with the peer pressure situation if only some parents do it, because in the ideal world then no kids would have it. So really it's just not a proper solution, rather than there are other ways to combat the fears that we have of material, appearing in front of our children's eyes. But doing this is really not a practical way of tackling the problem in the first place.
So what do we do? Because, I think when we over-focus on mobile phones, we lose sight of the fact that children are accessing, like, say, for instance, I'm sure many people listening today have younger people in their homes that have unlimited access, say, to YouTube via a PlayStation, for example, or an Xbox. Yet, if you go onto YouTube, you can see very graphic nudity, sexual acts, beheadings, shootings, all manner of things. So we need to look at the bigger picture here, really, and I'm just concerned when we start focusing on one thing as if it's a silver bullet.
Yeah, there is restrictions you can place on your iPad belonging to your child or smartphone. You can go into the iPhone settings and set up the restrictions as a parent. You can go into the iPad. You can go into an Android phone and do this. There's also a YouTube app for children, which again really does do a good job. And actually YouTube's not the worst place, actually. Of course, there is content up there that we don't like, but just YouTube itself, that is where children really get, or young people and old people really find useful information. It's become really the teacher of the 21st century. So there are so many good things about YouTube. So therefore, of course, we've got to work the content. But what I would say to governments, rather than, or any organization that comes out and says, look, we've got to ban smartphones, well, because there is pornography online. Well, why not deal with the internet service providers? Why not put the onus back on them? Why not do more in a technical point of view to block sites? Because technically it can be done. It cannot be eradicated, because there are so many, also clever people working for these companies that will use sites to pop up anywhere else. But there are things that we can do to put the onus back on the internet service providers and the way that the internet itself is governed, to try to tackle these at source. Again,
but there's a massive resistance to that, because then you come into, the internet has given people generally, a voice. It's given them access to information that, if you look at any country that wants to keep its people down, one of the first things it will do is restrict their access to the internet.
Absolutely. And of course, there's people who just want everything to be available online. So again, what you really have is, do you want to tackle it at the internet service provider level, or do you want to have a blanket ban for young children up to the age of 12 or 16 in some cases? Again, so really what I'm saying, really would be at a disadvantage in society, because when they arrive on their job and they're told to, take an image of that, convert it into a PDF, send it to this person, share it here, crop it here, all the things that you're expected to do on your first day of work, your first day at university, your first day, in higher education, they wouldn't have those tools. Again, in the past we'd send our kids to piano lessons, we send them to music lessons, but really nowadays you should be sending your kids to technology lessons, really, because it really is just a core tool. You need to be able to navigate on computers, on devices, on smartphones, really. So you would really put them at a disadvantage on an economic level, because even if you did if Ireland did it as a country, we're competing on a global stage now. Why would you disable, young people from technology at such a young age, just because there are some bad things on there, but there are also a heap of good things that technology does.
So what it comes down to is it then, we can't expect the government to babysit our children. We can't expect maybe even internet service providers to babysit our children. There are means and ways, if you take a bit of time to look at it, to monitor what your children are watching on YouTube in the first instance. If even if you don't use a child account, you can see everything they're at pretty much. And also, you can get tablets and apps for phones that have, restrict stuff for children. That's what we should be doing as parents, rather than looking to the government to do it.
Absolutely. We've really got to monitor their time, limit it, encourage them to, of course, be outdoors, because there are well-known, studies about the negative effects of smartphones and devices. In some ways, it's like giving a smartphone to a young 2-year-old is like giving them cocaine, because it is so addictive. We do know that the evidence so far points towards, giving devices to young kids, if they spend a lot of time online, that it does delay their speech development. And again, it does expose them to, a lot of negative stuff online that we're studying now, that there is many negatives. But of course, what the key thing is to be able to limit the amount of time they spend online, to not allow them just to use it for gaming and to make sure that they use it educationally as well. For us as parents, even ourselves, to put down the phones and spend time talking to our children. And use the restrictions as parents. Again, but of course, there is complications here, because a lot of parents will not be able to go into settings and be able to restrict apps and restrict purchases and restrict what they can download from the App Store. And of course, kids will always tell each other in the playground how to get around settings as well.
The only thing is if you get an email that says, your child's just bought €250 worth of FIFA points on Google Play or something, you don't belong teaching yourself how to make sure they don't do that again.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're motivated, you'll find a way.
Absolutely, and kids, but again, it really is, as parents, we got to take the responsibility back and to be able to just figure out how do we best prevent our kids and protect them when they're online, because we really just cannot take them offline as a whole, because again, it's become a core part of our beings. Even all the government services are moving towards online. I mean, how else would you find now, get forms and apply for passports? Everything is moving online. So really, they would be at a disadvantage. But of course,
there is one way, though. I mean, there is surely a way where we can verify people are 18 before they access certain parts of the internet. That has to be achievable, does it not? In that, I don't know if it would be linked to something that you get when you're 18 or something like that, but where that, there was access until you, or even if it was 16 or 17. Is that a way to go forward?
There is no clear way to implement that. Yeah, people have looked for a while to have a driving license, for want of a better term, for the internet, whereby to get on the internet, you would literally have a unique form of identification that could be linked back again. And this is more talking about the crime aspect of the internet, because we have so much hacking going on and so much disruption to businesses. So therefore, people, at the moment, there is no barrier to entry online. All you need is an email, and you can get them fake ones. But of course, you would have to try to bring in an ID for online. Really, the only way you could really do it is tie it into something like a credit card or a bank account. And of course, then it's not there at the moment.
Yeah, and if you only put it in once, you'd only need access to someone else's once, and then you couldn't be doing it the whole time. Yeah. A caller says, regarding safe internet for children, in Britain, the internet service providers are obligated to provide an opt-out service by law, but the government in the Republic here blankly refused to do any such thing. Are you familiar with that?
Oh yeah, when you install a router, say from BT in the United Kingdom, when you start up in the first place, it'll come up and ask you, do you want to turn on? It just gives you an option whether you want to turn on parental control or not. And of course, in practical terms, again, what happens is people turn it on maybe for a few days, but they find out that, of course, that it restricts their content, that they're trying to look at something on YouTube that actually is appropriate, but it's been flagged as not appropriate. And people only do that, they'll only put up with that once or twice and then they turn it off. So again, the filters, I mean, it's there, it's a move, it's a step ahead, but in practice, it really doesn't protect your children because very few people leave it on. And therefore, even also kids can bypass, because even if you turn it on for your home router, what you find is your kids are using their smartphone anyway for communicating. So,
Caller says the Department of Education should do more about putting free apps online. Our child is not at school yet, but is able to read because they've been using the Jolly Phonics app on the tablet. Now, it's a paid app. The free one's limited and full of ads. That's the flip side of it. A caller there saying that mobile phone technology or tablet technology has their children speaking, not even at school yet, to a higher standard.
Well, I'm not sure.
Sorry, the point being is there was a positive aspect to it. In other words, we have a caller there who's saying that their child uses their tablet and they're using an app on the tablet to improve their speech. The speech is above where it would be at if they weren't using it, and not even at school yet. So they're saying, the Department of Education. What I'm trying to say is they're saying the Department of Education should be using apps to educate children, whilst we're talking about perhaps restricting access to these devices. You know what I mean? That's the flip side of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So where do you think...
Education, absolutely.
Where do you think, Professor, we are going to go with this? Because this conversation comes to the fore from time to time, doesn't it? And then it slips back again. Where do you think the future lies in your expertise?
Yeah, of course, I mean, we do need government oversight on these things because the internet really has horrendous material online. But of course, we also have become a coerced society, but we have to be seen to be monitoring it to do at a higher level. We have to be seen to be tackling the content, stopping cybercrime by itself, stopping bullying and harassment. We have to be more educated about it. We just have to take these steps, but a blanket ban really is not a pragmatic way forward. But we have to have discussions. Parents need to take more responsibility as well. Parents themselves maybe have to get reskilled and, retrained. Schools have to play their part as well. But really, the internet's not going anywhere. It's going to become more embedded into our modern life. But really, we have to take steps to protect children, and really, it's a hand-in-hand solution between government, between legislation, and between parents ourselves to take responsibility. Because, of course, there are firewalls in other countries again which really restrict content. But of course, we as a democracy always oppose these large-scale government filters. So if we do oppose a large-scale government filter of content, therefore we have to take other steps. And again, really, a lot of it comes down to education and parental responsibility. And who provides that education very finally then? Do you think there could be a role with the government to sort of, provide that education for parents? Because where do you go looking for it, on the internet? Again, in fact, one of my main worries with my children, really, when it comes to the internet, is fake news. Because, I like truth. And I hate the fact that, there's no barrier to entry for news sites to pop up and give fake news and give wrong facts and propagate some of the myths which are going out there. And you even see them on your social media news feed, that these kind of viral stories come and they look on the face of it as being true, but they're wrong. And I despise that aspect of, because we don't have the standard barriers of truth that we used to have in the past and traditionally. But really, it just comes down to, just society as well, and people coming onto radio and speaking about it, and really just, your papers, really, that we just find out what are the real negative aspects of being online and what are the positive aspects, and what can we do to prevent our kids seeing horrendous material. Start by talking to them, I suppose. Thank you very much, Professor. You're welcome, Greg. All right, Professor Kevin Curran there, who's of cyber security at Ulster University. It's tough, isn't it? I mean, it's evolving all the time. It's hard to know what to do. What do you think, though? 086 60 25,000. You can text us that number, or if you've got WhatsApp on your phone and you want to fire us a message using that, no problem. 086 60 25,000. Just put us in your phone, and then it's easier whenever you want to send a message in, or if you want to request or what have you, you can do it whenever you like. Of course, you can call us if you want us to take your call that way, your comment, 074